Hi. Greetings from the Wisdom Lord Raphael. Before we start, please subscribe and hit the notification bell icon and don't miss any contents. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 16. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 16. The End of the Game. Chapter 1. The Betrayal. Gehenna Lord Arrival. Zalario always kept his cool. His role in this mission was to create a diversion, and he carried it out perfectly. The men he had brought with him were fighting on equal terms with the resistance in the Labyrinth. This was a literal meaning, and not an act. It was surprising, but they would need to revise their intel on the enemy upwards. That is what Zalario concluded as he assessed the battlefield. Most notable were the two people in front of him. Cherries and Trainee, two names that Zalario felt it necessary to remember. Still, Zalario concluded that he didn't need to get serious. Originally, I was told that there were only insignificant rabble left here, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I had thought that in order to intercept me, the enemy would exhaust all of the forces in the Labyrinth, but there is still the strong one called Zegan. I hope Cornu and Dino can complete their mission before he wakes up. He was a little worried, but there was no mistake in the plan Feldway had made. Believing that, Zalario was able to enjoy the battle with confidence. Oh dear, Voldora-sama is going to laugh at me later when he learns I was at the mercy of someone who is cutting corners. Such fears are unnecessary. Voldora was defeated by Velgrind and has fallen into our hands. That's not a very funny joke. It's no joke. You've noticed it, haven't you? That is why you are getting a bit impatient. Cherries was a magic of great strength. Even to Zalario, who had destroyed many dimensions, Cherries belonged to an extremely rare group of excellent talents. Trainee, who harbored the Spirit King, was also very talented, but not as much as Cherries. The high-powered magic she excelled at was threatening, but because it didn't have much effect on Zalario, it was not much of a problem. Cherries was similar. He deftly manipulated his energy, converging heat energy and shooting out high-powered heat rays. However, this could be nullified by Zalario's prided distortion field. What Zalario really needed to be wary of was his accurate and calm judgment. Unlike Trainee, Cherries would always try all sorts of tactics against Zalario. He fought cautiously, as if he were checking the effectiveness of each move. Zalario knew from past experience that such opponents could not be taken lightly. But that was coming to an end. Cherries had begun to grow impatient, losing the prudence from a moment ago. He was not going to enjoy this fight anymore. It's almost time, Zalario thought. I'm sorry about this, but I think we should end this now. You have both been very brave, very strong warriors. But, alas, you are no match for me. The difference in strength was obvious. The total amount of energy was also too much at Zalario's advantage. Most crucially, there was the issue of compatibility. Angels had an innate advantage over spirits. Cherries and Trainee, who were rooted in the power of spirits, could not give decisive damage to Zalario, who was a former seraph, albeit a fallen one. It's a shame, but it looks like Triss has reached her limit. I will only be able to hold on to the Spirit King for a few dozen seconds. Cherries don't know, do you have any plans left? Unfortunately, no. But don't worry, Rimuru-sama and Voldora-sama have thoroughly trained me in the art of never giving up. Despite the hopelessness of the situation, Cherries laughs and said that the battle was just beginning. Seeing this, Trainee also smiled. In that case, I will go along with you. I will not let insolvents have their way in Rimuru-sama's labyrinth. Although they had taken a great deal of damage, their energy was sufficient. They still had a strong will to fight and showed no signs of giving in at all, much to Zalario's disgust. Truly, you do not appear to be the kind of fools who do not understand your situation, but are you really going to cling to life in misery until the very end? If you think that you can just be resurrected and have nothing to worry about, then you're mistaken. According to Zalario's calculations, it would soon be time for Dino to take Ramrus out of the Labyrinth. The Labyrinth's unique immortality was only made possible because of Ramrus's presence. Strictly speaking, if Ramrus just left the Labyrinth, it would be fine, but if she left the Labyrinth after losing consciousness, then all of the records would be reset. In other words, once Dino's mission was accomplished, Ramrus's followers would no longer be immortal. Zalario was aware of this, which is why he was taking it easy on Cherries and Trainee and letting them accumulate damage. Your fighting ability is worthy of praise, so if you wish, I can give you a painless and proud death. That was Zalario's way of showing mercy to the strong. But of course, Cherries and Trainee answered with a rejection. Fufufu, you think you've won? How foolish. I agree. In a battle, you never know what will happen until the very end. As long as you don't give up on your victory, you won't lose, but you don't even know that, do you? That defeatist remark was enough to provoke Zalario, and while he had not yet lost his cool, it was enough to make him feel agitated and uncomfortable. How unpleasant. It's rare that I would want to show you a little mercy. Mercy, is it? There are a lot of people who have been defeated after saying that they were going to win in the end. Don't you know that that's called a doom flag? Cherries recalled having a discussion with Eldora about the list of things you should not say or do. There were many of them, but the showing off and taking it easy when you're about to win in particular was an absolute no. Once you decide to kill your opponent, you must do it quickly without saying a word. If you don't, you will surely be caught by your opponent with a counterattack. How foolish, as if a miracle in this situation will show up. Because Rimuru-sama has performed miracles many times. The people under his command have long become used to such instances, and there are even quite a few who have started to imitate them. Even now as well, you see. In the first place, by being in this labyrinth, even stalling for time was often enough to turn the situation around. This time was no exception. That's right. And if you dare to go after Rimuru-sama, a friend and ally of my god, then I, the Gehenna Lord Adalman, shall be your opponent. Another warrior had awakened. So what if one more warrior is added? Zalario originally thought as such. What bothered him more was the delay in hearing from Dino. Too slow. Although I've known about Dino's slacking habits for a long time, if we don't get this done soon, there's going to be more and more trouble on my side. Zalario's frustration was gradually accumulating as the situation failed to go as planned. Then, a knightly-looking man stepped up in front of Zalario. I am reluctant to challenge you with so many people against just one person, but I am not a paladin anymore. Pragmatism is more important than honor, so please forgive me. It was Albert who said this. Armed with a set of mythical-grade armor given to him by Rimuru, and having received a gift upon Adalman's awakening, he had evolved into a Gehenna paladin. As the official owner of the glorious armor, Albert pointed his sword at Zalario. There was still a man like this. Even in Zalario's eyes, Albert's presence was tremendous. His gestures exuded the air of a swordsman, and the mythical-grade blade in his hand had the potential to wound Zalario. He knew at a glance that this was something that could not be ignored. I'm here too. That voice belonged to Wenti, the Hell Dragon King who had awakened from her evolutionary slumber to become a Gehenna dragon. Now knowing where she learned it from, Wenti bowed gracefully. Zalario's expression turned blank as he realized his disadvantage. Even in the face of these opponents, it should still be possible to him. But that was not the point. Unless Dino did something about Ramrus, Zalario could not win. Even if I were to reveal my true abilities here, it would only be exposing my hand to the enemy. But it's not going to be enough to deal with these guys, unless I do so. Zalario made his decision. If it was only Cherries and Trainee, he could handle them with restraint. However, with the addition of 3 strong awakened demon lords, even Zalario would have a difficult time. But now, if Zalario did not act as a diversion here, then Feldway's plan would fail. As someone who prided himself on his 100% mission success rate, Zalario could not accept such a situation. It can't be helped. I'm going to kill them all anyway, so let's show them what I can really do. Just as Zalario was about to make up his mind. Oh yes, I'll tell you a story that may be of interest to you as well. My realm of protection is the 70th levels of the Labyrinth, so why do you think I ignored the intruders over there? What? I don't want to draw out the answer, so I'll tell you briefly. It's simply because there was no need for me to be there anymore. What are you trying to say? Adalman, a skeleton in the robes of a saint, smiled evilly and laughed. Zalario, uncomfortable with this, asked back. Wait a minute. What does he mean there's no need for him to be there? Does this mean that something happened to Cornu during the invasion? Without hearing the answer, Zalario arrived at the truth. However, Adalman's goal was actually to make Zalario waver, so he told him personally what had happened on the 70th levels. That foolish intruder has been eliminated by Velgrin-sama. That's why I felt safe to come to you with confidence. Zalario was not foolish enough to doubt those words. With Cornu's defeat confirmed, Zalario decided to inquire about the success or failure of the most important objective. I see. With Velgrin as an opponent, Cornu is no match. There seems to be a lot of odd things going on, but they should still be remedied. So then you've sent the rest of your meager battle power to me. As for why Velgrin hadn't come him yet, he could only assume that it was because of Masayuki. After all, Masayuki was possibly the inheritor of Rudra's soul, he thought. Feldway, who had examined the information obtained by the Imperial Intelligence Bureau, had ordered Masayuki's extermination in order to eliminate any possibility. However, Velgrin seemed to have found out about it. Cornu is also unlucky. If he hadn't switched roles with me as he had originally planned, none of this would have happened. But I can just ignore Velgrin. With Michael-sama around, she can easily be controlled. Right now, what's more important? What's more important was what Dino was doing. So you can afford it. I see, so then you're strong enough to take on Valgrind-sama. I hate to admit it, but it looks like we've really been underestimated. That's true. There's a good chance we'd lose even if we all took on the challenge together. Cherries was wise, but Adalman also had a quick mind. Both of them realized from Zalario's attitude that he must be hiding incredible abilities. But even so, Adalman and the others had the advantage. Adalman explained the reasoning behind this. I already know the purpose of your questions. You're really after Ramur-sama, aren't you? However, we are under orders to ensure the safety of Ramur-sama at all times and with the highest priority. Upon awakening from his evolutionary slumber, Adalman had first confirmed that Ramurs was safe. Naturally, if Ramurs was safe, then everything else would be fine. Above all, it was a supreme order from Rimuru. The main purpose of Adalman and the other guardians was to protect the labyrinth. In other words, they were to ensure the safety of Ramurs. So, Ramur-sama is safe, isn't she? Of course, trainee Dono. Zijin Dono is on his way, so no matter how many people there are, they won't be able to touch Ramurs-sama. I see, that's a relief. Trainee smiled. The others did the same, each with a look of relief on their faces. Now they could focus on Zalario with peace of mind. As for Zalario, the mere mention of the name Zijin once again gave him the feeling that Dino had failed. Zijin was the one who could use distortion field, right? But if Dino fights seriously. No, that man can't be expected of much. He was already very reluctant to take part in this mission, so by now he's probably long gone. Zalario had a pretty good idea of the current status quo. As if aiming for that moment, a telepathy net arrived from Dino. Hey, Zalario, I know you can hear me. The mission has failed. Apparently, Cornu screwed up when Valgrind entered the fray. I've also got a nasty bastard on my end, so I'm retreating now. You should get out of here before the labyrinth closes. See ya. It was so one-sided that Zalario couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Zalario thought to himself that this was really in Dino's style and decided to retreat as well. Since victory at this point was now meaningless, then any unnecessary action should also be avoided. This is the first time I have ever tasted such humiliation to have to retreat when my opponents are merely a bunch of stragglers who could easily be swept away. There will not be a next time, so remember that. After blandly uttering his regrets, Zalario took his men with him and teleported away from the labyrinth. Those who remained behind felt no lingering sense of victory, but immersed themselves in the peace of mind that came with having successfully defended the labyrinth. The threat had left the labyrinth. Zijin released his skill World of Illusion and then looked at Beretta, who had just finished laying Ramurs down on the couch. Has Dino Dono escaped? It would seem so. Ho, you're too modest. It was only the mercy of Ramur-sama that let him get away. Beretta was right. Zijin had long noticed that Dino was wearing the resurrection bracelet. He had noticed it and purposely overlooked it. It was an experiment. Will Ramur's blessings be effectively activated even if there is clear hostility towards Ramurs by the equipper? The result was as one could see. Dino had won the bet and survived. For Zijin, it could have gone either way. The results of this experiment were obtained only incidentally, and the victory condition had been fulfilled when he defended Ramurs. If that is what Ramur-sama wants, then there is nothing I can do about it. Beretta nodded back. If they had succeeded in intercepting the enemy, then there was no need to kill uselessly. Of course, there would have been no next time if the enemy had been oblivious to the generous master's mercy. Zijin had intended to pursue Dino depending on his reaction after being resurrected. If there had been no sign of escape, he would have crushed him, but it seemed that that was not necessary. Dino not only chose to escape, but also persuaded his companions to retreat. His two companions accepted this and also withdrew from the area. So, what about Zalario? Adalman Dono rushed over, and there is no sign of the other party anymore. They must have given up and fled as well. At this point, Adalman and the others had resurrected and joined the fight, and the remaining enemies seemed to have decided to retreat. That's just as well. If it weren't for Ramur-sama, we would have been the ones who were defeated, right? Indeed. Even if we had won, there would certainly have been casualties, and for us, that is tantamount to defeat. Exactly. Zijin and Beretta nodded to each other. The thought that it was necessary to revert to a more vigilant posture came to both men at the same time. But that could come later. With that, the labyrinth had been successfully secured. After confirming Ramurs' safety once again, Zijin returned to his domain. That's all for today. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Please check my other YouTube videos. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon, and don't miss any updates.